I found out I had been erased before I even reached my desk. The lobby turnstile at Sableton Tower usually clicked for me like a polite bow. That morning it flashed, in cheerful teal, access transferred. Have a productive day. I tried again. Same message. The security guard glanced at his tablet, then at me, then back at the tablet like his eyes were buffering. Badge issue? He asked. It is having a moment, I said, because I get witty when I panic. He frowned. Your profile is not here. Not here as in moved, or not here as in never existed? He did not smile. Not here. My phone buzzed. A system notification arrived with my name on it. Account status, archived. Archived sounded like something you did to old emails, not people. My name is Cass Mercer. I am 41. I build the invisible plumbing that keeps big promises from leaking into lawsuits. Another buzz. My calendar blinked, then emptied itself. Meetings vanished. Blocks of time collapsed into blank space. I opened my work email. It asked me to sign in. I typed my password. The screen thought about it and told me, politely, that I was incorrect. I was not incorrect. Correctness was my brand. My phone rang. Unknown number. It rang twice, stopped, then rang again. No voicemail. A text arrived instead. You have been made portable. I borrowed the guest phone and called my manager, Rob Keane. A recorded voice answered. This mailbox is not accepting messages. Not busy, not away, not accepting. Like my voice was a contaminant. I stood there while my brain tried to bargain. There had to be a glitch. A mistaken click. Anything that made me less replaceable. Then my phone buzzed again. A text from Jules. Do not go upstairs. Security is looking for you. I typed, why? Dots appeared. Vanished. Appeared again. Rob told them you copied proprietary code. He called it preventative containment. Preventative containment. Rob loved phrases that made cowardice sound like strategy. He also loved my work, right up until he loved claiming it more. I walked out of the building because being framed in the lobby felt like bad theater. The street air slapped my cheeks awake. People hurried past with coffee and plans. My plans had been deleted. My phone rang again. Same unknown number. This time I answered, because fear and curiosity share a bloodstream. Static hissed. Then a woman's voice, calm and precise. Ms. Mercer, we heard you might be available. That is interesting, I said, considering I did not tell anyone. Rivermouth is a town that talks, she replied. But we are not here to gossip. We are here to correct an imbalance. Are you recruiting me? We do not recruit, she said. We retrieve. She mentioned a brittle legacy system I had kept alive the previous year, a project only a handful of people even knew existed. Rob had never asked about it. He had never asked what I actually did. We can offer autonomy, she continued. Direct access, final say, compensation that reflects reality. I should have asked for numbers. I asked the question that mattered. What do you want in return? Her tone did not move. We want you where you belong, and we want Mr. Keene to learn the difference between taking credit and taking responsibility. Out loud, I said, talk to me later. We will, she replied, as if the future had already been scheduled. The call ended. I stared at my blank calendar and realized something cold and clean. Rob had tried to erase me, and someone else had just offered to weaponize my absence. My hands shook as I slid my phone into my bag. It was not grief I felt. It was clarity. If Rob wanted a version of me that could be archived, I was about to show him the difference between a file and a fuse. By the time I got home, the silence in my apartment sounded staged. I opened the notebook I pretended was just scribbles. It was a map of everything that kept Brassline Technologies from collapsing in front of clients. Weird dependencies, emergency contacts, the quiet patches that prevented loud disasters. None of it looked heroic unless you knew how expensive failure was. I kept hearing Rob Keane in my head, bright with confidence he had not earned. "We are aligned," he would say in meetings, as if alignment were a deliverable. A few weeks earlier, sometime after an all hands that tasted like reheated optimism, I had been presenting a fix for a delay that was not actually a delay. I got as far as sentence 2 before Rob lifted a hand, palm out, like he was stopping traffic. "We will circle back," he said, gentle as a lullaby. The room went quiet in that way that pretends it is not awkward. A few people looked down at their laptops. Someone coughed like they were trying to cough away responsibility. I nodded, because I had trained myself to nod. Later, Rob circled back by repeating my solution in a louder voice with fewer details. People nodded at him like he had invented gravity. After the meeting, Jules found me by the kitchen counter. "He did it again," I said. Jules shrugged. "He does it because you let him." "My silence is not permission," I said. Jules raised an eyebrow. "Your silence signs the permission slip." That line irritated me for days. It irritated me now, too, mostly because it was accurate. My phone buzzed. Unknown number again. This time it was a message with an address and a single instruction. "Come alone. Bring your notebook." If spies ever recruited me, they would not ask for my passport. They would ask for my messiest handwriting. Sometime in the early morning, I went. The place was called the Paper Anchor, a narrow storefront that smelled like cinnamon and old paper. A woman sat with her back to the wall, posture calm, eyes sharper than her smile. "Cass Mercer," she said, standing. "I am Rowan Calder." "I spoke to a voice," I said. "Are you the voice?" "I am the messenger," Rowan replied. "The voice belongs to our client." She slid a slim folder across the table. No logo, no slogan, just clean paper and the weight of intent. "Cinderline Consortium," she said. "We build infrastructure for organizations that refuse to be held hostage by vanity management." "That sounds like a polite way to say you hate my former boss," I said. Rowan's smile barely moved. "Your boss performs competence, we prefer practice." I opened the folder. The compensation figure sat there like an apology written in ink. "You have not interviewed me," I said. Rowan tapped the folder lightly. "We interviewed your work. It held. Your manager never asked what you do. We did. He told security I stole code." Rowan's expression did not change. "He told security what he needed them to believe. You were getting close to something." "Like what?" I asked, though my stomach already suspected. Rowan leaned in. "A vendor contract with generous consulting fees. A migration plan that keeps failing, which keeps the vendor paid. Your notes include the fix that would end the cycle." "So he archived me." "He attempted to," Rowan said. "But you are not a file. You are a system." I laughed, thin and ugly. "What do you want, besides my devastating charm?" Rowan's eyes warmed by 1 degree. "We want you to leave Brassline cleanly, publicly, and we want you to stop rescuing them when they set their own kitchen on fire." "That sounds like revenge," I said. "Revenge is simply accountability with better timing," Rowan replied. I looked down at my notebook. Every page was proof of what I had carried. Every page was also leverage, if I chose to stop being polite. I closed the folder. "What happens if I say yes?" Rowan's smile returned, small and sure. "Then Mr. Keene will discover a fascinating concept: consequences." I did not quit Brassline with fireworks. I quit with paperwork. Sometime in the late morning, I walked back into Sableton Tower through the side entrance. A guard met me with a clipboard and the nervous politeness of someone holding policy like a shield. "Return all company property," he recited. I held up my badge. This is the only thing they remembered I owned. Upstairs, Rob's office door was open. He stood by the window, phone in hand, performing busyness. I set the badge on his desk. Cheap plastic, loud in the quiet. He glanced at it, then at me. "You made a decision." "I made several," I said. "You only notice the one that inconveniences you." A corner of his mouth lifted, practiced. You will regret moving that fast. I regret moving slowly, I replied. Rob's eyes narrowed. You do not have the clearance to say that. That is the best part, I said. I do not need it. I walked out before he could wrap another threat in corporate vocabulary. In the hallway, Jules waited by the copy machine and slipped a folded printout into my hand. For your scrapbook. It was an internal memo with Rob's name on it, the phrase preventative containment, and a neat timeline that blamed me for an unauthorized code extraction. A line at the bottom mentioned escalating to legal. They are committing to the lie, I said. Lies are easier than learning your job, Jules replied. Go. Cinderline Consortium did not greet me with balloons or a branded mug. They greeted me with a problem. A woman named Tessa Wu walked me into their converted warehouse office and pointed to a whiteboard already crowded with diagrams. We do not do onboarding theater, she said. We do useful. A man with tired eyes looked up from the board. Cass, I am Simon Ardent. Thank you for coming. No titles, no posturing, just gratitude that sounded real. Simon gestured to a messy flowchart. Brassline's migration is failing. Their vendor built a dependency maze. One of their biggest clients, Marrowgate Logistics, is looking for a stabilizing partner. I blinked. So they want you to fix the mess they paid to create. Tessa's smile was sharp. We call it the snake eating its own budget. Simon slid a contract toward me. Clean language, one section highlighted. Exclusivity. No side consulting. No returning calls that blurred lines. Brassline will try to drag you back into the burning building, Simon said. We prefer you not inhale smoke for free. I signed. That afternoon, my phone began vibrating like it was haunted. Do you still have access? Someone texted. They are asking for you. Is Cass gone for real? I let the screen go dark. Silence was not cruelty. Silence was quarantine. Then Rob's name lit up my phone, bold and insistent. He called, stopped, called again, as if repetition could bully reality into compliance. I did not answer. I watched it ring itself tired. 2 days into my new job, Tessa dropped a flash drive on my desk. You like receipts, right? On it were invoices, vendor change requests, and approval threads that led back to Rob like breadcrumbs to a wolf. Consulting fees labeled emergency extensions, payments that lined up beautifully with delays. I asked questions, Tessa said, the kind you were punished for asking. I opened my notebook that night and paired my timestamps with their paperwork. I did not invent anything. I did not embellish. I simply connected dots Rob assumed nobody could see. Revenge, it turns out, does not always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a spreadsheet. By the end of the week, Simon asked, Are you ready to send this to the right people? I looked at the neat stack of evidence and felt my anger sharpen into focus. Yes, I said. Let us give Brassline a mirror they cannot talk their way out of. The dossier went out on a Monday that felt too ordinary for sabotage. Simon's legal team packaged everything with the care of people who enjoy winning in court. My notebook timestamps, the vendor invoices, the approval chains, the internal memo Jules had printed for me like a parting gift. We sent it to Brassline's ethics hotline, their audit committee chair, and a compliance address that existed mostly to make regulators feel loved. We did not add commentary. We did not use exclamation points. We let the documents speak, because documents are brutally articulate. By the next day, texts from former teammates turned frantic. They shut down the migration window. They pulled Rob from meetings. They are asking who owned the fallback scripts. Ownership is a hilarious concept when people only notice it after it is missing. At Cinderline, we kept working. That was the strange part. I had spent years treating Brassline's chaos like my weather. Now it was simply someone else's storm. Marrowgate Logistics asked for a meeting. Not Brassline. Marrowgate. They had finally learned the difference between a vendor and a hostage. In the conference room, their COO, Dana Rusk, slid incident reports toward us. Brassline keeps saying everything is under control, Dana said. Our shipments glitch, invoices duplicate, and my team is one surprise outage away from arson. Arson is a valid hobby, Tessa said, but the paperwork is terrible. Dana laughed despite herself and glanced at me. Are you the one they are blaming? They can blame me for the weather too, I said. It will not make their umbrellas appear. We presented a plan that did not depend on mystery vendors or heroic last-minute rescues. It depended on documenting reality and removing points of failure, which is the least glamorous form of competence and the most reliable. Dana signed a letter of intent before the meeting ended. On my way back to my desk, my phone lit up with a number I recognized, not from my contacts, but from memory. Brassline's main line. Someone had finally found the courage to call from an official number. I answered, because curiosity is a recurring bug in my system. A woman introduced herself as Alina Sato from Brassline Human Resources. We would like to ask a few questions, she said. For the record. I do not consult, I replied. This is not consulting, she insisted. This is clarification. I can clarify one thing, I said. Rob never asked what I actually did. Start there. A pause. Mr. Keene is on administrative leave. Another call tried to cut in. Rob's number. I let it go to voicemail and deleted it without listening. The next morning, a pressy little message circulated on Brassline's internal network and somehow on a few industry feeds. Rob framed my departure as a mutual separation and suggested that certain individuals struggled with collaborative standards. It was impressive watching him set a fire and complain about the smoke. Tessa read it over my shoulder and sighed. He is trying to poison the room you already left. Let him, I said. Poison tastes worse to the person who keeps licking the spoon. By the end of that day, Marrowgate countersigned. Brassline lost the account without even realizing they were in a competition. That is what happens when you spend your attention on blame instead of building. That evening, Jules texted me a picture of the Brassline lobby. The turnstiles were wrapped in yellow tape. A temporary sign hung crookedly above them. System maintenance. Please use side entrance. I stared at the words until my eyes watered. Brassline had finally written down what I had been for years. Maintenance. Necessary. Unseen. Too late appreciated. Simon stopped by my desk and placed a fresh contract addendum in front of me. Marrowgate wants you on the account, he said. Not because you are a trophy, but because you are a safeguard. I signed with a steady hand. Outside, Brassline's weather worsened. Inside, I felt something settle, heavy and satisfying. It was not cruelty. It was balance. Rob had built his career on taking credit. Now he was learning what it costs to borrow someone's backbone. A few weeks later, Brassline sent an email I could not ignore, mostly because it was addressed correctly. The subject line read, Request for statement. No faux warmth. Just the corporate equivalent of clearing a throat. I did not open it right away. I let it sit while I finished a deployment at Cinderline, the kind that would have taken me midnight emergencies at Brassline. Here, it took planning, documentation, and people who listened when I said, that will break. When I finally read Brassline's email, the body was careful. Their audit committee wanted context. Their attorneys wanted clarification. HR wanted to know whether I had experienced retaliation. Experienced was doing a lot of work in that sentence. I had not experienced retaliation. I had been living inside it. I forwarded the message to Cinderline's legal team and went back to work. That was my statement. Rob tried a different door. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number, but the tone was unmistakable. Cass. Can we talk like adults? Adults, in Rob's world, were people who accepted his version of events without footnotes. A second text arrived. I did not mean for it to go this far. I did not respond. Soon after, Jules sent me a screenshot from Brassline's internal bulletin. A short announcement, heavy with euphemism. Mr. Keene has departed the organization. We thank him for his contributions. Contributions. Like stealing credit was a donation. The unofficial details arrived in fragments. The vendor contract was terminated. The emergency extensions were questioned. Brassline's board was not amused to learn that the person who talked most about risk had been signing it with both hands. At Cinderline, Marrowgate countersigned our contract. The work stabilized. Outages stopped. Dana Rusk sent a note that said, simply, "Thank you for making this boring again." Boring. The most flattering word in infrastructure. Rob was still not finished. People like him rarely are. He emailed my personal account with an apology that sounded like a press release. He blamed miscommunication. He suggested we both move forward. He asked if I would be willing to clear the air over coffee. Coffee. The beverage of corporate absolution. I opened a reply and typed a dozen versions of the truth. I could have listed every time he spoke over me, every time he rewrote my work with his name on it, every time he used my silence as a stepping stone. I deleted them all. Instead, I wrote one sentence. You never asked what I did. No flourish, no explanation, no second line that would give him something to argue with. I hit send and felt my shoulders drop, like my body had been holding a weight it did not realize was optional. He replied quickly. 3 paragraphs. Justifications. A complaint about how hard leadership is. A line about how he always appreciated me, which was my favorite lie of the bunch. I did not answer. That is the part people misunderstand about revenge. They think it has to be loud. They think it has to involve shouting or humiliation. Sometimes revenge is refusing to be the person who fixes what someone else broke on purpose. Sometimes it is letting the consequences land where they belong, then walking away without offering a cushion. On my desk at Cinderline, I keep the old Brassline badge, not as a trophy, as a reminder. A badge can open a door, but it cannot make a room respect you. Respect is built the same way systems are built, with attention, with honesty, and with people who understand that the quiet parts are what keep everything standing. Rob learned that lesson late. I learned it in time. And if you are wondering whether I ever felt guilty, here is the truth. I did, briefly. Then I remembered the turnstile flashing access transferred, like my career was a file someone could drag and drop. I am not a file. I am the one who decides what runs and what finally stops.